count increases. Still, we have to live, and training isn't cheap. Well, basic skill training, if you don't know very much, can be pretty cheap. But advanced skill training, for example, in your major specialties, that can get expensive. Here, I don't use this cuirass and helm anymore. Maybe you can get a few drakes for it and put them in your personal training fund. Well, thank you. Very generous of you. Still cuirass and still helm. Okay. So what about the latest rumors? I'm just a courier, delivery boy, follow orders and get paid. I don't know nothing and I'm perfectly happy that way. Why have you suggested this then? Okay. So she's talking about our commander, Chaos Cossacks. He's okay, sour, a warrior, but he knows his job and leaves us alone to do ours. Okay. Okay. I'm definitely going to use this cuirass. Really nice of you, thank you. I see a book on your bed. May I look at it? I hope you don't mind, alright? The Mirror. The Mirror by Berdier Reims. The wind blew over the open plain, jostling a few trees within to move back and forth with the irritation of it. A young man in bright green turban approached the army and gave his chieftain's terms for peace to the commander. He was refused. It was to be battle, the Battle of Ain Kalar. So the chief Limbus has decreed his open defiance and his horsemen were at war once again. Many times the tribe had moved into territory that was not theirs to occupy, and many times the diplomatic approach had failed. It had come to this at long last. It was just as well with Mindofrax. His allies may win or lose, but he would always survive, though he had occasionally been on the losing side of war. Never once in all his 34 years had he lost in hand-to-hand combat. The two armies poured like dual frothing streams through the dust, and when they met, a claymore rang out, echoing into the hills. Blood, the first liquor the clay had tasted in many a month, danced like powder. The high and low battle cries of the rival tribes met in harmony as the armies dug into one another's flesh. Midofrax was in the element he loved. After 10 hours of fighting with no ground given, both commanders called a mutual and honorable withdrawal from the field. The camp was positioned in a high-walled garden of an old burial ground, adorned by springtide blossoms. As Mindofrax toured the grounds, he was reminded of his childhood home. It was a happy and sad recollection, the purity of childhood ambition, all of his schooling in the ways of battle, but tinged with memories of his poor mother, a beautiful woman looking down at her son with both pride and unspoken sorrow. She never talked about what troubled her, but it came as no surprise to any when she took the walk across the moors and was found days later, her throat slit open by her own hand. The army itself was like a colony of ants, newly shaken. Within a half hour's time, after the end of the battle, they have reorganized as if by instinct. As the medicos looked to the wounded, some remarked with a measure of admiration and astonishment, "Look at Mindotrax. His hair isn't even out of place." "He's a mighty swordsman," said the attending physician. "The sword is a greatly overvalued article," said Mindotrax, nevertheless pleased with the attention. "Warriors pay too much attention to striking and not enough in defending strikes. The proper way to go into battle is to defend yourself and to hit your opponent only when the ideal moment arises." "I prefer a more straightforward approach," smiled one of the wounded. "It is the way of the horseman." "If it is the way of the Buell, the tribes to fail, then I renounce my heritage," said Mindothrax, making a quick sign to the spirits that he was being expressive, not blasphemous. "Remember what the great blade master Gaiden Shinji said: the best techniques are passed on by the survivors. I have been in 36 battles, and I haven't a scar to show for them. That is because I rely on my shield, and then my blade is that in that order. What is your secret? Think of melee as a mirror. I look to my opponent's left arm when I am striking with my right. If he is prepared to block my blow, I blow not. Why exert undue force?" Minderfrax cocked an eyebrow. "But when I see his right arm tense, my left arm goes to my shield. You see, it takes twice as much power to send force than it does to deflect it." When your eye can recognize whether your opponent is striking from above, or at angle, or in an uppercut from below, you learn to pivot and place your shield just so to protect yourself. I could block for hours if need be, but it only takes a few minutes or even seconds for your opponent, used to battering, to leave a space open for your own strike. What was the longest you have ever had to defend yourself?" asked the wounded man. "I fought a man once for an hour's time," said Minderfrax. "He was tireless with his bludgeoning, never giving me a moment to do aught but block his strikes. But finally he took a moment too long in raising his cudgel, and I found my mark in his chest. He struck my shield 1,000 times, and I struck his heart but once. But that was enough." So he was your greatest opponent?" asked the medico. "Oh, indeed not," said Minderfrax, turning his great shield so the silvery metal reflected his own face. "There is he." The next day, the battle recommenced. Chief Limbitz had brought in reinforcements from the islands to the south. To the horror and disgrace of the tribe, mercenaries, renegade horsemen, and even some Richman witches were included in the war. As Minderfrax stared across the field at the armies assembling, putting on his helmet and readying his shield and blade, he thought again of his poor mother. What had tortured her so? Why had she never been able to look at her son without grief? Between sunrise and sundown, the battle raged. A bright blue sky overhead burned down on the combatants as they rushed against one another over and over again. In every melee, Minderfrax prevailed. A foe with an axe rained a series of strokes against his shield, but every one was deflected until at last Minderfrax could best the warrior. A spear maiden nearly pierced the shield with her first strike, but Midofrax knew how to give the blow, throwing her off balance and leaving her open for his counter-strike. Finally, he met a mercenary on the field, armed with shield and sword and a helm of a golden bronze. For an hour and a half they battled. Midofrax tried every trick he knew. When the mercenary tensed his left arm, he held back his strike. When his opponent rose his sword, his shield rose too and expertly blocked. For the first time in his life, he was battling another defensive fighter, stationary, reflective, with energy to battle for days if need be. Occasionally, another warrior would enter into the fray, sometimes from Midofrax's army, sometimes from his opponent's. These distractions were swiftly dispatched, and the champions returned to their fight. As they fought, circling one another, matching block for blow and blow for block, it dawned on Midofrax that here at last he was fighting the perfect mirror. It became more a game, almost a dance, than a battle of blood. It was not until Midofrax missed his own step, striking too soon, throwing himself off balance, that the promenade was ended. He saw rather than felt the mercenary's blade rip across him from throat to chest. A good strike, the sort he himself might have delivered. Midofrax fell to the ground, feeling his life passing. The mercenary stood over him, prepared to give his worthy adversary the killing blow. It was a strange, honorable deed for an outsider to do, and Midofrax was greatly moved. Across the battlefield he heard some call a name similar to his own. Jurifax. The mercenary removed his helmet to answer the call. As he did so, Midofrax saw through the slits of his helmet his own reflection in the man. It was his own close-set eyes, red and brown hair, thin and white mouth, and blunt chin. For a moment he marveled at the mirror, before the stranger turned back to him and delivered the death stroke. Jurifax returned to his commander, and was well paid for his part in the day's victory. They retired for a hot meal under the stars, in a garden by an old cairn that had previously been occupied by their foes. The mercenary was strangely quiet as he observed the land. "Have you been here before?" Jurifax asked one of the tribesmen who had hired him. "I was born a horseman just like you. My mother sold me when I was just a babe. I have always wondered how my life might have been different had I not been bartered away. I might never have been a mercenary." "There are many things that decide our fate," said the witch. "It is madness to try to see how you might have taken this turn or that in the world. There are none exactly like yourself, so it is foolish to compare." "But there is one," said Jurifax, looking to the stars. "My master, before he set me free, said that my mother had twin sons when I was born. She could only afford to raise but one child, but somewhere out there is a man just like me, my brother. I hope to meet him." The witch saw the spirits before her and knew the truth, that the twins had met already. She remained silent and stared into the fire, banishing the thoughts from her head, too wise to tell all. Wow, what a sorrowful tale. Didn't expect that from you. Alright. But that was a good reading, I agree. Yes, your book is still there. Anyways, I want to thank you again for your gift. Maybe we'll
I'm
see
sure
each
it's around
other
here
again.
somewhere.
And you're a trainer, right? So you provide training in block, long blade, and medium armor. Okay. She's right. 220 golds is a bit too much right now. Alright, so the healer must live nearby too, I guess.
Is there something I can do for you?
Not right now, but thank you. Yeah, that's his home. Hello.
Welcome. If you wish to talk, it is really no trouble at all.
Welcome, novice. Very new Nero. He already knows that I am a part with the blades. That's interesting. Okay. Tirmelin is my name. Healer is my trade. I will be happy to share a little advice or a Morrowind lore with a fellow blade. Or maybe you would like to catch up on the latest rumors? Tell me about yourself. He's a healer and a German of the blades, okay. I guess so. You're the blade trainer, right? Basic skill training is cheap. We give you discounts for higher rank in the blades, and we keep prices low. Okay, this is the same words that the warrior told me. To get you started, here is my old alembic. Maybe you can get a few gold for it or use it yourself. Sure, why not? I'm grateful. But what do you trade? Disease resistance, standard restore health. I could buy a few of those. Cure poison, cure paralyzation, maybe one potion just in case. Common disease, maybe one potion too. Blight disease, no, not right now at least. Restore fatigue, restore health, cheap restore health. Sure, okay. Those are restoration potions. Alright. Okay, can you give me a little more than this discount? Okay, well, how about 100 gold? Thank you. And now, so your trade is a healer, right? I am a healer. I have sworn solemn oaths in the College of Restoration to heal the afflicted and cure the diseased. But I have also studied both the unarmored martial arts of the Khajiit and the light armor and blunt weapon styles of the Imperial West, both for self-defense and for disabling or killing a dangerous opponent. I sell spells, and I am a spellmaker who creates spells to your specifications. I can also teach you in my skills for a fee. Well, that's useful. What spells do you have? I am interested in restoration spells than the other ones. Let's see. Calm creature. Okay. Okay. He has only one restoration spell, and it is resist a common disease. Okay. Not much else. Alright. Okay. What can you tell me about our superior? Okay, same answer. Okay. Maybe a little advice. Outlanders new in Vardenfell do best in Balmora. House Hlalo is imperial through and through, and you get a good mix of native and imperial people and services. Not as friendly to outlanders up north in House Redoran country or down in a big Vivek city, and definitely not friendly out east with the Telvanni wizards. Shop the outfitters, then check out the guilds for work. If you want to be adopted by a great house, we will need a patron, and that's easier when you've got a reputation. Okay. Not bad. he talks about Morrowind population. So about